Welcome to episode number 82 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Joined by my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing wonderful. It's the best part of the week because we get to record this show. I don't care where you are or when you're listening or how you're listening. I appreciate you for being here today. I can't wait to do the shows. I have a ton of great geek news today, a ton of great sports news today. We got a really, really great interview today for the second time with a legend, a complete legend in the comic book universe. And I love doing this show. Almost as much as I love chocolate, Ray, but a little bit more. I love this show a little bit more than chocolate.
That's pretty good. Speaking of chocolate, I got my peppermint mocha frap today, as we're officially now into the holiday season, according to Starbucks anyway. And as I told you earlier, I prefer peppermint to pumpkin like 100 to 1. So,
right. Hey, listen, I'm a cinnamon guy. I like cinnamon. I can do cinnamon year-round. Everybody's got their thing they can do year-round. I can do a pumpkin latte, in the holidays. Maybe I'll do one or two. But, I got to be in the mood for it, which means usually there has to be a lot of leaves falling, and it's got to be cold outside. And then I get it, and I'm like, oh, this is good, but it's just not as good as the thing I usually get, and that's usually the last time I have pumpkin for the holidays. Although pumpkin pie, enjoyable all year round.
Yes, agree there wholeheartedly for sure. Pumpkin pie is a whole different story, but the pumpkin spice stuff, meh.
Overkill, a little bit overkill.
Yeah. But yeah, it was 40 degrees today here in LA, at least this morning when I went out. Yeah,
wow.
So
that's cold. So, that's really cold out there, people.
Well, that's kind of what happens now. Now that winter is here officially in LA, as we're in mid-November.
Wait, what'd you just say?
Finally, winter is here.
Yeah, see, Game of Thrones is dead. It proved it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's definitely dead. Yeah, but yeah. So in the days, it'll get up to like the low 60s and stuff. But at night, because it's a desert, we talked about this.
That's true.
At night, it'll drop down to the 40s. So when I got up at 6 a.m. this morning, it was a brisk 42 degrees.
I love that time. I love 40 to 60, man. I mean, 72 is really kind of my top comfort level. Above that, it's been in the mid 70s in Philadelphia, if you can believe that. I'm wearing shorts right now. Yeah.
I've heard it's been warmer on the East Coast. So I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she's kind of like, the weather's all over the place, up and down. I just,
right. Well, you know what they say in Florida, right? If you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's in Florida, yeah, because it's constantly changing. And also, shout out to my mom. She broke her foot, so I hope she's okay.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, no, she'll be, I know she's okay, but she's like, she's mad because she broke her foot. And
Ray, I've got a proposal for you that'll make her feel better. All right, I think what we need to do is at some point when the pandemic is over, we need to just arrive at your house with like backwards baseball caps on and just some T-shirts from the 90s and be like, hey, are we having lasagna tonight or baked ziti? And then just her face be like, oh, and then we just go downstairs and play PS3, PS2 probably.
Xbox,
original Xbox. Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be the generation. GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. Yeah.
So I heard a story today, by the way. Side note, before we even get into this, our friend Travis told me the story that and Travis is getting a little bit up there now too. Travis is entering his late 20s. All right, so
yes,
for all the
barely as he would say, but yeah.
But you all remember that kind of after your mid 20s phase where like suddenly you're not the youngest guy in the room anymore. And he goes, yeah, this kid came up to me and said, I got this really old Game Boy. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, I know what you're not. I know he's not going to say it's an original Game Boy because that would be. He goes like, it's called a DS. And I was like, I don't want to hear the rest of the story.
I just dropped my Starbucks after you said that.
Is it all over the floor or can you pick it up?
It is all over the floor.
Well,
so
Ray, are we going to soldier on?
Yeah, we're gonna just keep on.
If you want, I can do a Chevy Chase. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Listen, do you need to clean that up? Yes or no?
No, we'll keep going.
That's his dedication to you at home.
We'll keep going. My OCD that'll drive me nuts for the next hour, but it's okay. We will get through this show.
Ray, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm proud of you. I've never seen you this joyous after doing something like that. Actually, that actually cheered you up somehow.
Yeah, it was just the DS thing, and trust me, it's killing me inside. It's killing me inside. You know it is.
Not as much as that Starbucks is. No, they're delicious. Starbucks, I actually appreciate you. You get a healthy donation from me throughout the year. So thank you.
Fortunately, it was just the cream. It was mostly done anyway.
Okay. But false alarm, everybody. Jeez.
No, but I still spilled. Like I was going to pick up the cup, but I'll have to clean that up later.
Today's show is brought to you by Bounty, the quicker, thicker picker-upper.
Yes. Yeah, this was a fun open to the episode. We don't usually do this, but we do have a big show for you guys today here.
We do actually have a big show.
Yeah, we've got obviously our Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2, or Episode 10, depending on how you're counting.
We have a lot to say about this episode.
A lot to talk about this one. Rumors of a Boba Fett spin-off series. We've got, like Lee mentioned, we have a legend, Kevin Eastman will be back on the show for
yes,
about 10
creator
minutes.
of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're talking about The Last Ronin. You must, if anything in this episode, must listen to that interview. Yes. It's the best. I don't want to discount anything he's done. I don't want to say it's the best thing he's done in years because that would be unfair. But it is exciting. It's really fun.
It's good. It's near the top of his works for sure.
Absolutely.
He's done a lot of good stuff, but this is very, very good. We got other video game news. Obviously, football breakdowns, the announcement of a start for the NBA season, and more drama in baseball. Because what else is new? But we'll kick things off with, of course, Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2. There's a lot to talk about with this one. As I'm looking, yes, The Passenger. Pulling up my notes here on my phone. This was, and I'm not going to lie, and I think, Lee, you're in agreement with me. We said this on our Stream Lounge stream on Friday. This was my least favorite episode of The Mandalorian. Right.
Yeah. We gotta tell people. I agree, Ray. If I was ranking all episodes to date of the 10 episodes that are out, this would be at the bottom of the list. I do want to say this because we said this on our stream as well. I'm not saying it's a bad episode. It's just, and this is, I figured out a way to describe it that you'll appreciate. Okay. It's, if I went to sit down at a Netflix, if I could watch all of them, or a Disney Plus, which it's on, ironically. It's not an episode I'd choose to watch most of the time unless I needed to reference it for something.
Right.
But yeah, they went from what I consider to be the best episode they've made to one of the slower kind of side stories. And again, Ray and I have said this multiple times too, that we do not know if this story is going to lead to something bigger. There have been episodes in television where an episode kind of, it looks like a throwaway and then later on they refer back to it. Actually, who's really perfect at that? I'm trying to think right now of the show that it's Avengers, right? So everybody hated Thor 2, but they really went out of their way in Endgame to make that movie look, this was a more important movie than you realized. So please keep buying it. I mean, that's kind of how I felt, but again, it legitimized that. You might go back and watch that again, and it has its place. Even though it's the bottom of the list, it has a place. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen it, by the way, obviously spoiler alerts, but it's not huge spoilers. Obviously, the Mandalorian takes the passenger, which is otherwise known as Frog Lady, on a sub-light speed journey to another planet where he is bombarded by X-Wings who want to know who he is because they have him pegged as the ship that referenced a Season 1 episode where he was on that prison ship, crashes into an ice planet. There are ice spiders. That's what I call them. Ray has an actual name for them.
And then there's debate as to what they are, but we'll get into
of course.
that,
but then they have to get the ship up and go, and it just, again, it was an episode. It had very little to do with the story as we know so far. I think we were all really waiting for Boba Fett. We teased last week that look, they might make us wait. They might make us wait a little bit to kind of get to that story, which they're clearly going to do. But yeah, look, I mean, I'd give it a C. It was average. It wasn't bad. It just was an average episode today. And I don't like leaving this show feeling like I skipped over a week and I'm just still waiting for the continuation of week 1. Yeah. Especially when they tease so much this season. Real quick, the little bit of not an Easter egg, but one thing that we did know now from reading it throughout the week is that the Frog Lady and Dr. Mandible, which was the highlight of the episode, by the way, both appeared in Season 1 in the cantina on Tatooine. So they were there. They just didn't speak or anything like that. But yeah, again, real quick. Sorry, I know, Ray, you want to get to it. The episode started very strong, to be fair. The first 10, 15 minutes of the episode were actually quite good. We're still on Tatooine. There's a fun little, they try and rob them. And Baby Yoda's there and there's a jetpack scene. Again, I don't want to spoil it too much, but that was really good. But once they got into space, I was just like, why? Move the story. I'm ready for more, please.
Yeah, no, exactly. Once they actually took off from Mos Eisley Cantina and the docking bay, things kind of really slowed down. And of course, there's a lot of rumors and things floating around. We don't know for sure if supposedly one person's like, he crash landed on the ice planet that he was on in the first episode. And I'm not necessarily I don't necessarily agree with that. They seem like different planets, even though they are both barren ice.
Again, who cares? Like, that's not a big deal. First off, it wouldn't make sense if it was. It's a throwaway. And he just crashed on the next planet he could get to. That was the planet he was going by.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was, trying to get away from the X-Wings that were pursuing him. Again, Dave Filoni returns as Trapper Wolf, which was fun. Obviously, again, Dave Filoni, executive producer of Rebels and Clone Wars, along with Jon Favreau, and obviously very deep in the expanded Star Wars universe. He made a cameo. We should mention also the person who was in the suit of Frog Lady was Misty Rosas, who of course was also in the suit of Creel from season 1, even though it was Nick Nolte's Queel. His face and his voice, the person in the suit actually doing the moving around was Misty. So that's a fun, nice little Easter egg. Peyton Reed directed this episode, which is also why they featured Dr. Mandible, Giant Ant. Peyton Reed directs the Ant-Man movies. So fun little Easter eggs if you know the greater geekdom universe, you might say. But for me, I mean, the spiders, some are saying they're not true Krykna. Krykna was a spider that looked like this was introduced in Star Wars Rebels.
Right.
I find it just too convenient because people are like, no, but it looks like the original Macquarie concept art of a spider that was then featured in Empire Strikes Back. And I'm like, listen, considering the guys who made this, the odds that they're just gonna that would be a deep cut. But I'd be shocked if they didn't go and do something they did and bring that back. So, again, though, it's a minor detail, like Lee said, whether it is the ice planet or not, whether it is Krykna or if it is a different kind of
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get me excited. This is the first episode I didn't jump up at something in the episode.
Yeah. No,
every episode of this show has had something where you go, whoa, like that. And this episode just didn't have that for me. Again, I want to say this again. Look, beggars can't be choosers. What is that, the 10th episode? Okay, look, and it wasn't that bad. I don't want people to think I'm ungrateful here. I'm just very selfish, and I want great Star Wars because I've waited most of my life for this. Yeah. But again, I accept it. I got to say this again. It was just an average episode. That doesn't mean it was a bad episode, and I'm looking forward to the next episode, and hopefully we start getting back kind of more into the storyline, or at least have an enriching story. Yes. You can't tease Boba Fett, and then you can't go too far here and not revisit that. Or you got to give me something. That's kind of how my attitude is right now. And of course, the directors are like, "You will wait." Yeah, of course. But no. So like Lee said, we don't think it was the best episode overall. It's setting things up, hopefully, for something bigger down the line. Hopefully, we still get Boba Fett. We should absolutely talk about Yoda eating the Frog Lady's eggs.
I was just about to say the one thing I almost forgot was the one big thing that also was in this episode is that the child is a baby killer. It eats three of the Frog Lady's eggs.
That we know of.
Right. It also eats a baby spider. Right. And we noted it's carnivorous. It's a carnivore from previous episodes, and also it likes, obviously, the Krayt dragon meat and all the other stuff. But the whole point of this mission was to get the Frog Lady and her eggs to a planet where they could find a habitat. And Baby Yoda killed 25% of the population in the first half hour. So was it just a hungry baby? Is it a portent of darker things to come? We will find out.
I keep alluding to that, don't I? That we don't know. People just assume this is going to be a good character. I don't know. And again, Ray and I spoke about this off the show. Is that look? There's not a scenario in the show where we see the child grow up. Obviously, right? It's going to have to enter the lore somehow. So that either means it's going to have a very sad ending, which I don't think it will because it's Star Wars. Or it's going to allude to something far into the future. But yeah, I'm not convinced that the child is as innocent as they say. I think this episode proved that. It was funny, but mildly uncomfortable. It was just okay, he did it again. At first, I thought he was going to use the Force or something to help the eggs hatch, and then it's just he's just eating them.
And the first time he did it, it was funny. By the third time he did it, it was like, this isn't cool anymore. And
they did it at the end. It was like, But maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe that's the big takeaway. Rule of threes.
Right. Whenever you write something. So, but we mentioned Boba Fett a lot, and obviously our next big story is a huge one, is that they're talking about a Boba Fett spin-off series, basically explaining everything he's done on Tatooine since escaping the Sarlacc pit. So, I, for one, would be, especially considering we don't know what he's going to do the rest of the season 2.
Right, that seems a little bit important. To find out what he's been, to
find out what he's been up to. So, a possible mini-series featuring Boba Fett. Lee, I'm all down for it. I'm for sure, and Tamura Morrison, I'm sure, is all for it as well. But let's go. Let's do a Boba Fett series. I'm all for it. I think this is great news.
Yeah, he is by far the most thought about character in the original Star Wars trilogy that never really got a story. Now, obviously, Clone Wars gave him quite a bit of a story. They really do show his origins from Attack of the Clones through to about the, right before the Empire takes back over. Like, we know that young Boba Fett failed many times. He's trying to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi. Mace Windu. There was a lot to do with that. We posted this on the page that young Boba Fett failed many times to assassinate Mace Windu. And tried to, because Mace Windu obviously killed his father, or his clone dad. I just realized there's no term for that. All right, but he failed, and then
sounds like an '80s Disney movie. This Saturday morning, Clone Dad.
Yeah, Clone Dad. Come on down, right?
Yeah.
Son, you have my eyes. So what ends up happening is that Boba Fett, and I'm trying to give everybody listening a little bit of the backstory because I know you all love that, but he essentially makes his own bounty hunting clan, all right? And you see this clan in Empire Strikes Back. So one of the things that got cleared up from Clone Wars is that when that scene in Empire Strikes Back when Vader is commissioning all those bounty hunters to find Skywalker, or find Solo, right? And he says, no disintegrations. It's a very famous scene. That's actually Boba Fett's clan, right? That's his little bounty hunting clan. They all work together. So Bosk and him, they're a team.
IG-88, yeah.
Right, which was interesting because when we first saw that scene, I'm sure it was intended this way. It was just a bunch of bounty hunters, and he was like, whoever finds him first. But I love that they cleaned that up and that, okay, this is your tribe. So that opens up several questions, right? So where are they in this universe?
Yeah.
Right? 2 is that one of the questions we didn't get answered is Boba Fett makes that clan, but then the next time we see him, he has the Mandalorian armor on. So the big question that has not been answered, a lot of people think this has been answered, is Boba Fett a true Mandalorian? We do not have the answer to that. A lot of people saying he was too old, and I was just like, well, he's too young to start the trials. I'm like, it's an easy walkover. He could always go to Mandalore and just say, this is what happened. I believe that he's not wearing the armor anymore because it was his way of getting out of that life.
Yeah.
But, how cool, again, speculating now, how cool would it be if, A, he's left that life, he's trying to stay away from that life, and his clan is trying to find him? That would be a cool storyline. I've said this before. We have to remember that he knows Darth Vader. He knew Darth Vader in this time period. He knows what happens. He knows the entire history of this time period. And the Mandalorian has still yet to meet someone that understands the Skywalker saga, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So that's going to be very interesting. But I want more of that. And that's kind of where we were going with this. So I'd be completely down for a Boba Fett. I don't know anybody who wouldn't be. All right. And that's something I'm excited about. And the more spinoffs that Favreau, Filoni, these guys are in, the better. I don't have a problem with these guys running the Star Wars universe right now. I just want to make sure they do it right. And they will. Again, they will. They totally will.
Yeah. I have total faith in them, for sure. I'm with you 100%. So, speaking of new series, this could be a fun one. This could be interesting. Some of the producers, not all of them, but some of them are the producers from The Last Dance. Of course, we talked about this on the show. Of course, the 10-part Michael Jordan,
phenomenal,
his last championship
the
season
best
with the Bulls.
Sports documentary ever made. That's how I would introduce that. Yeah, by far,
for sure. Agreed. Absolutely fantastic. Well, they're like, we're going to do the same thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin from WWE. And as someone who grew up in the Attitude Era, to me, this is even bigger than Jordan almost. Like, this is like, almost. That's basically, for 3 years, for 6 years really there, Austin was the biggest thing in wrestling. It was only injuries and a few other things, obviously, that held him back from going even further. But in such a short period of time, easily one of the most captivating. One of the big reasons why WWE turned it around and came back to beat WCW in the Monday Night Wars. And depending on how long they stay with him, is it going to be one of his... he's a 6-time WWE champion. He's a 3-time Royal Rumble winner. Is it going to be one of the Rumbles? Is it going to be a WrestleMania? Is it going to be, plus with WWE Network, right? Like, how much of this footage were they sitting on? How much are they having permission with WWE? How much are they working with WWE? Where will it air? WWE does air a fair amount of stuff on ESPN as well, just like The Last Dance. And, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, how it gets out there, and when it's going to happen. And there's a lot of questions around it, but I'm all for the idea of a Stone Cold Last Dance style documentary.
So here's the deal. Let's do a deep dive into this because I think this goes a lot deeper than people even realize, and I love it for that reason. So, and there's layers to this. Number one is we had been talking, Ray, for months, especially towards the early part of the pandemic, of how is the WWE going to kind of answer AEW. Right? We've been talking about they need something. They need something to bring people back. Well, the one thing that they have that AEW doesn't have is this rich history. They have these eras of incredible accomplishment that they can reference to. And I think is when you think about The Last Dance and what that did for Jordan, it brought him right back into the forefront. Yeah. What it did for basketball, they did that right before the NBA season got going. All right, if you time this around WrestleMania or something smart, it could give that audience of, hey, come on back to wrestling. Come on back to the WWE. We got something here. So that's the first thing I think about. The second thing I think about is when you look at Austin's story, and again, most of us just know him as Stone Cold Steve Austin, but if you start at Stunning Steve,
yes,
and go all the way back,
and all
right?
That,
so
and then going to ECW,
right?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Steve Austin, who's very blonde, had his first wrestling persona that I remember is Stunning Steve, and he had flowing blonde hair. If you can imagine Steve Austin as a pretty boy. And then what I remember about Steve Austin, and this is where I find the documentary style of this fascinating, because as fun as it was as a kid to watch the stories of the WWF at the time, it's actually the behind-the-scenes stuff, how they create these characters and how they put them in the forefront. That's what I'm super interested in. And you can break that wall now in wrestling. So, again, I don't know how many people know this, but Austin was not supposed to be a savior for the WWE. He was meant to be a heel. And people just loved him. So he comes in and he launched the Attitude Era with this kind of badass, get out of my way. Austin 316 just whipped your ass. All that stuff was not meant to be good. And what happened was, and I find this the most fascinating, is that character somehow tapped into a heartbeat of this country that nobody knew was there at the time. Yeah. Right. And we're talking, mid 90s. This isn't this is not a bad time in American history.
No, it was, you know what it was? It was like the grunge movement almost from the early 90s, but now translating into wrestling. It was that underlying anger about certain things that people couldn't control. Right. And Austin was the personification of that, because who didn't want to just kick their boss in the balls and give him a Stone Cold Stunner,
and
or a teacher or whatever,
when this is a psychological thing, but when things are good, people kind of look for dark, bad things, and when things are bad, people look for dark, bad things. So my point was it was just kind of a thing, and then it was needed. Everything was kind of gravy at that time period. Really, what I mean by that, for those of you listening, older or younger, is that it was more of it was a peaceful time, but an ignorant time in our history, meaning that there were threats coming, obviously 5 to 6 years down the road. But you could just walk on an airplane at that time. You didn't fear anything at that time. Most of us, right? Not talking about all of society, obviously, but it's a different time. That's my point. So I would love to revisit that time. I'd love to revisit the thoughts of everybody going through that time. I think it also gives them a really interesting chance, Ray, to tackle some of the more controversial WWE things that happened during that era from an outside point of view. So the Montreal screw job, we've never really heard from Austin about that. He's interviewed a lot of people, but we've never really heard his take on that. To Owen Hart dying, to The Undertaker and his streak, to lots of different things. The Monday Night Wars you alluded to. So I think it's a great way to tell those stories through their greatest wrestler. Really, probably he's if there's a Mount Rushmore, he's on it. I can put it that way.
For sure. And that brings us to our next topic, where
I have notes for our next topic, because this one was created by you at home listening.
Yeah, this comes from the community, was asking who is the GOAT. And I think this is interesting. Because again, it also only mentions the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. There's so many different time periods of wrestling.
Why don't we do it? Why don't you make one right now?
Here's the thing, right? So for me,
it's gonna be our question of the week.
For me, you go Bruno Sammartino, who had the longest run. This is WWF territory,
right.
Who literally held the belt for 10 years. Then you love him, hate him, however you feel about him now as a person. You can't argue what he did in the ring. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, no, he has to be there.
Right?
There's two wrestlers I know that have to be there. Go ahead.
And then I think after that, I think you have Ric Flair.
Okay.
I think is number 3. Again, still the greatest champion of all time, 16-time champion.
Wait,
again,
I have to ask a question.
Yes.
Are we talking WWE Mount Rushmore or all-time Mount Rushmore? Because those are different. They're very different.
No, those are true. That's very, very different. Because I'm going all-time.
Okay. Because I'm thinking WWE. So wait, go ahead. That'll be good. You do this one and I'll do the other one.
Because then obviously, and then you have to have somebody, I think, from the Attitude Era. And I think that's when you have to choose between either Stone Cold or The Rock.
The Rock won't even be on mine, but keep going. I'll tell you why.
No, I agree. I would put Stone Cold ahead of The Rock, but I know some people will make that argument. But for me, that's the top 4, and then you have your honorable mentions: The Rock, John Cena.
Okay.
It's for me: Sammartino, Hogan, Flair, and Austin.
So I do not have one of these where the Undertaker's not on it. And the reason I say that is because when I'm thinking of the most dominant wrestler in the history of the WWE, in terms of storyline and everything and maintaining, it's The Undertaker for me. All right. A lot of that has to do with when I grew up, obviously, but I'm saying that this is a guy. This is the only wrestler in history that I believe can say this. He started as a kind of not a gimmick, but he had a very late '80s storyline, which was just kind of like stupid and crazy and awesome at the same time. He's the only wrestler in history I know that tried to shed that, and the people rejected it and went, no, you need to be the dead man. That's what we want. So I don't know how many wrestlers could, A, do that to go normal and back, B, keep that mysticism, and then C, but bring other wrestlers to that level with him. There is no Kane, obviously, without The Undertaker. I would go as far to say that he would have been famous no matter what, but Mankind, the character of just Mankind, I'm not talking about Mick Foley right now. Mankind was elevated. Yeah, he was elevated by The Undertaker, and there were other wrestlers along the way, but The Undertaker is 100% on my Mount Rushmore. I've got Austin there as well. The Rock does not make it for me because, again, if you're going to be on the Mount Rushmore, it means you contributed to the sport forever, like in some way. But, Hogan kind of has to be there, but I'd probably put Andre the Giant on there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one too, for sure.
Because people come and go, and then there's the whole kind of history of people before and after. But just going back to the main topic, obviously, let us know what you think about Mount Rushmore of overall wrestling and WWE. The question was, who's the bigger GOAT, The Rock or Austin? And I've got a lot of comments. I'm going to read some of these here. And I love it because like people came out of the woodwork for this question, man. There's people on here that haven't commented. I was like, wow, we hit a nerve. But here's some of the comments. Jesse Gersh says, The Rock because he's reviving the XFL. Marquise Hakeem says, this is hard. If it's strictly WWF, WWE, then I'm Stone Cold. But The Rock wins overall in terms of professional career, in my opinion. I totally agree with that.
That's a fair point, for sure.
And that's what I had said, was that if we're talking GOAT within WWE, it's Austin. If we're talking GOAT overall, it's definitely The Rock. Stony Greatness, who's a friend of mine, says Austin was an awesome storyteller, but The Rock made everyone he was in the ring with look like a star. That's true ring talent. I agree. And had he never left, which I'm glad he did leave, I think he would have overtaken Austin easily.
For sure. Sure.
Xavier Cruz, who's my nephew. This is the type of people that are coming out here. I don't think there was a single wrestler who embodies that time period better than Stone Cold. While I'm personally a bigger fan of The Rock, his style and charisma, I think he found greater success outside of the ring. Exactly.
I think, and you also have to remember too, I don't think you have The Rock necessarily without Stone Cold, right?
True.
Because you forget that The Rock started. I mean, first it was similar to Stone Cold, right? Stone Cold, Stunning Steve, as you mentioned, Stunning Steve Austin. Actually, I don't even know. I don't think he was Steve Austin. I think at that.
I think he was just. Well, I want to say he was Stunning Steve Austin. But he was definitely Stunning Steve.
Definitely Stunning Steve. But anyway, you had Rocky Maivia. He was Rocky Maivia, and it wasn't until Rocky joined
the Nation of Domination. Sorry, I had to do that. There's no way I can say that without doing that.
With Mark Henry and Farouk and D'Lo Brown. And and then you had the corporate Rock. Joining Mr. McMahon, kind of like as McMahon's face, right? As like obviously McMahon couldn't wrestle Austin, so he needed somebody as that proxy. But I mean, if you don't have that again, if you don't have Austin there again as that anti-hero, I don't think
he rose up.
Right.
That's when The Rock really rose up, was when he was fighting Austin.
Exactly. Speaking of rivalries, The Rock also had some other great rivalries: Rock versus Triple H, Rock versus Mankind.
Right.
But it's the Rock Austin rivalry. Yeah. None compare to that. And again, a lot of that comes down to the fact that it starts with Stone Cold.
Right.
You know, again, Jake the Snake in the King of the Ring tournament in 1997. It's like, you come out here with your Psalms and your John 3:16. Well, Stone Austin 3:16 says, I just kicked your ass.
Major moment.
Yeah.
Major moment in wrestling.
And Michael P.S. Hayes is there like.
Yeah. And I mean, by the way, that's where Austin 3:16 came from, if anybody was ever wondering that. I'm going to keep reading some of these comments because they're phenomenal. But that's a great point, Ray, is that, you know, the Austin put his hand out to The Rock to bring him up, and then The Rock did everything. By the way, we have to mention this. Nobody takes a Stone Cold Stunner like The Rock.
That's true.
I would recommend you all go to YouTube after listening to this and search The Rock taking Stone Cold Stunners, and you'll see what I mean. He just overdid it every time in a great way.
Supposedly Austin said that they had like bets, and Rock was like, you owe me a 6-pack if I can bounce 3 times across the ring off a stunner or something.
I'll never forget the stunner where he bounced, hit the ropes, bounced back, and then bounced again. But here's the thing. That's exactly what it needed to be. So many people took a stunner and just bounced and fell.
Right.
I mean, it's a stunner. It looked like he had the most electrifying man in wrestling entertainment was electrified by that move. It was brilliant. You just don't get to see stuff like that anymore. Yeah. Let me get through a few more of these because I want to shout out all the people that commented because we really appreciate it. I love this one. Tyler Arrow. Stone Cold all goddamn day.
Yeah.
I love that. Here we go. Ian Longway. Tough choice, but I'll tell you one thing. No one could take a Stone Cold Stunner like The Rock. Absolutely true.
Yes.
Mark Pollard just shared a picture of The Undertaker, which I thought was good. Julian Camacho shared a picture of Sting. Julian, I do not agree. I think if we had a WCW conversation, he's in it, but definitely not WWE.
Yeah, I don't think Sting is actually even close to the all times. Honestly, he's probably in the honorable mentions, maybe, but like,
right.
Yeah,
he's
him too. Another guy who transformed, right? Who went from a bodybuilding West Coast guy with blonde hair facing Vader in his Palace of Pain in the Rocky Mountains. It's time. It's Vader time. Vader was one of my favorites growing up because very rarely could you see a 350-pound man do a moonsault like that. Right. The Mastodon, very underrated. But, and then Sting obviously transformed into the Crow, and that's when he had a career resurgence.
Right, which is funny. John Bobner says, Austin, the wrestling world, rock all around. Ray Santiago, good friend of mine, watches Leaderboard Edition, says, there's a lot of questions, or a lot of levels to this question, which we're discussing right now. Real quick, Ray. Mike Alexander, I feel like Austin was never at full strength when he fought. He had that neck thing for a while. It's a really great point by Mike. Had Austin been healthy, I don't think he ever would have broken into the cinema world as well as The Rock did. I mean, we know Austin's in the cinema world, but he plays a very singular character. But his injuries definitely played a role in his wrestling career.
That was a huge storyline. Was with how he had to give up the Intercontinental title with Owen Hart before Owen Hart's tragic passing. Yeah. Where Owen Hart's like Hart 3:16 says, "I just broke your neck,"
and he did.
Right? Like there was that whole thing because he in the and it was the weakest schoolboy ever, which also was a credit to Owen Hart who took it because the way the story was supposed to go was that Austin was supposed to go over, and that's how they finished it. But yeah, Austin broke his neck a couple of times. He had both his knees completely reconstructed. That's why he went from 1 brace to 2 braces to wearing the jean shorts because he had everything. He had all this stuff on just so he could walk for a while. Like it.
He fought through it. He fought through it. I'll never forget him breaking his neck and winning that match. Yeah. Here's the thing. So there was, like you said, Owen Hart did a really bad tombstone on him, broke his neck. And then, you can watch the footage. I mean, you can see him talking to Austin, like, dude, are you all right? In the ring. And Austin's like, something's wrong. And he somehow pinned him He doesn't pin him normally. He just kind of bulldozes him over. But like this dude's got a broken neck.
It's a schoolboy pin, but it's what it's called. But it was a very weak one.
Yeah.
And we're basically, and credit to Owen Hart for also ad-libbing, because basically, again, you throw this up in wrestling, that means the guy's hurt, that means it's done, but they have to finish the match somehow. So
yeah.
Austin is basically there. And like whenever Owen, they figure out that basically Owen's going to get in the referee's face, Austin's going to reach up, grab him by the tights, pull him over him, and then again get his shoulders down, and Owen just took it.
Yeah.
And it was, if anything, it showed how great both those men are, even though, yes, Owen messed up with the pile driver, which is why for a long time pile drivers were banned.
Yeah, nobody did tombstones after that, yeah.
Yeah,
any pile driver, yeah.
Even the Undertaker. Right. That's why he came up with the last ride, which was his power bomb. They took away the tombstone. That's part of the reason why Taker also had that gimmick change, was because they had too many guys. There were very few guys who could still, and then they realized that a pile driver could be done by certain individuals, right? Taker could still do a pile driver. Kane could still do
you have to be over 6'5".
Or someone who's like so perfect that like Mankind could still do a pile driver because he had done it. The true consummate professionals, but even nowadays, you rarely see a pile driver anymore.
It's dangerous.
Of that. Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Exactly.
I'm going to round these out. There's only a couple left. I want to give everyone a shout out that commented, because we really appreciate it. Desmond Dale said he's going with Flair, which is fair. That's your opinion. Randall Begins says, it used to be a question, but not anymore. The answer is The Rock. Again, Randall, I don't agree with you if we're talking just wrestling. Raymond Padilla, for tickets and merch, it's Austin. Anything else is subjective. And then the final two comments, Pete Stump says, they both came out and drank beers with the crowd after the show, so it's a draw. And then Ken Scott, good friend of ours, long-term friend of ours from Montclair State University, says, I feel like today's generation of kids think it's The Rock based on how they promote him, but I think most people go with Stone Cold, who lived through the Attitude Era. He beat The Rock twice at WrestleMania, and then the Intercontinental feud at the same time was bigger. So, yeah, bigger deal. So there's great comments from all of you. Like I said, you never know on our page what's going to take off, but this one noticeably got a lot of responses. We love that you love that time period of wrestling. We love discussing it. So, again, feel free to add some more comments on that. We'll make maybe a quick side quest out of this video, but great question. And again, looking forward to this documentary. Maybe that documentary that they're trying to make will answer this question a bit. We'll find out.
Yeah, for sure. And all I'm going to say is I've interviewed Stone Cold before.
I was about to bring that up.
I have not interviewed The Rock. So, Dwayne, if you want, you have an open invite, my friend. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you come on the Geeks Who Like Sports, you want to rectify it. Right now, it's Stone Cold 1, Rock nothing here in terms of my interview career.
Right.
So,
President Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
Or
you'll have my vote, but
President Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah. Just imagine The Rock going to Germany, sitting with Angela Merkel, and he's like, please, no. Call me The Rock.
I think it's more like, can you imagine The Rock going to North Korea and him going, I'm sorry, what's your name again? Kim Jong. It doesn't matter what your name is. I mean, we all want that. Know your role and shut your mouth. I mean,
Putin,
that's not what
Xi,
it would be like.
and China, all of them just bam.
Right.
Anyway, not going to get into any that stuff
Who
too
would
much.
play The Rock on SNL? Probably
The Rock.
Yeah,
The Rock would just come back. He would just
one of my favorite skits on SNL, by the way, was The Rock Obama.
Yes.
Again, this has nothing to do with political affiliation. This was just funny, but like the idea was that when Obama got mad, he turned into The Rock Obama.
Yeah.
And it was The Rock in like a ripped T-shirt. He was like ripping people's heads off, and then they made She-Rock Obama for the first lady, which was great. So go check that skit out.
The Rock had some, especially in those first couple appearances on SNL, some really great sketches.
Superman one. We can talk about the Superman one.
Yeah,
people like, you're obviously Superman. He's like, I'm not Superman. I'm Clark Kent. He's like, the Superman's shirt's exploding out of his other shirt. It's so super good. The Rock that's when you knew something was brewing here.
Yes.
Something special was brewing here.
He was too good. He was too good on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, he's hosted since then a couple of times. The whole franchise Viagra song and dance was hysterical.
Right. I can't wait. I hope he does run for office one day. I would love to see what he could do with that. The Rock Obama.
Yes. Oh goodness. But yeah, so that does it for wrestling. We got a lot of geek stuff coming. We got video game stuff to talk about. We got a lot of stuff still on the docket.
Yes, command me, my lord.
Yeah, first off, A little bit of sports stuff. We got more sports stuff later, but EA and the NHL have agreed to a multi-year extension. Why? I don't know. Who cares?
Because I gotta.
Yeah, exactly. It really just feels like that EA and has the NHL kind of like the NFL over a barrel here. The NHL was kind of like fine. But
NHL doesn't care. They don't care.
We talked about it before on the show. NHL 21 is not very good this year. Hopefully they bounce back next year.
Look, here's my hope. I want to tell you my hope real quick. I don't want to stay on this too long. This is my hope and dream, is that EA went into the NHL offices. By the way, this is definitely not what happened. They went into the NHL offices. They went up to the 11th floor where the meeting rooms are, and they went into one of those big glass rooms where you can overlook Manhattan. And they looked at Gary Bettman in the eye, who definitely wasn't in the meeting. And they said, Gary, I want to show you the next generation NHL game. No one's seen this but you, sir. I know in the last game we were stupid and we put in dumb, gimmicky plays to try and get people's attention and text conversations between coaches and players that would never, ever, ever, ever take place. But no, sir, in NHL 22, we have something special. What is it? The Kraken.
Yeah, they'll finally put in Seattle, which they didn't even do this year, even though we knew what the team name was and the logos and everything.
Right. Or you can try our new Gary Bettman mode. Well, what do you do in Gary Bettman mode? You get to negotiate the CBA.
I was going to say you just get booed all day.
Yeah. Have the fans asked for this? Who?
The Who? Yeah, the Who. Yeah,
the fans. Have they asked for this? The NHL has fans. And then it's that meme where the guy gets kicked out the window. And
yes.
Just, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Way to go. Way to go, NHL, EA. Thanks for making mediocre hockey games. I'm going to plug Super Blood Hockey here. You want to play a real hockey game? Play Super Blood Hockey. It's fun.
Yeah. So there's that. EA also did announce this weekend, which it probably got buried under, I don't know, a little announcement, something about some president or something. Little announcement in the world. But EA announced on N7 Day they are remastering and re-releasing the Mass Effect trilogy. If you've never played the Mass Effect trilogy, this is a great way to get into it. It'll be released in the spring. I played it the first time around, so I don't need to go back to it personally. But this is something fans...
You a sheep or a shepherd, Ray? You a sheep or a shepherd?
I am a shepherd.
In that game,
yeah. Yeah, in that game, yes. But yeah, so I if you missed it the first time, this is a great chance to go back and play it. It would really set the bar for a lot of modern RPGs.
Absolutely. My wife loved that game.
Yeah.
It's funny because my wife played that game, so I've always known Shepard as a female character,
right.
Which is funny.
Most people actually, funny enough.
Did they do that? Now they made Dragon Age as well, correct?
Yes.
Right. So in a very similar game in a different world.
An RPG, but it's set in medieval times, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. But now this proves something. I'm going to harken back to actually a previous episode. I think it was 81 or 80. We talked about this when a game goes away for a little bit. And then it comes back, and everyone is very excited now about a new Mass Effect game, whereas Assassin's Creed has just done that, and why some games you need to just take a break and come back.
Yeah.
Very much looking for this. Glad they announced it right on N7 Game. That's true fan service, as they should. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes for sure.
Yes. Yeah, no, it'll be good. Supposedly, they are working on a brand new chapter in the series, so this is why this is kind of like, here's a refresher. So, hopefully, this happens a lot, actually, when a series goes away for a while time. You re-release the originals, remaster them, and then you kind of gauge the interest, and then you can put back out a new chapter, which hopefully it'll help. It's a marketing move as much as it is a video game release move. But
people will love that. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of folks who are going to enjoy this, join the fan service, as you mentioned. Speaking of fan service,
we got some numbers for you here on this one, folks.
We got some Avenger fans out there, but I guess a lot of Avenger fans didn't drop the $60 that Square Enix was asking for. And this is also on Square Enix.
We did.
Yeah, we did. But so Square Enix Avengers has officially bombed.
Too bad.
At least in terms of it could bounce back. This happens a lot in games where a game has a longer lifespan that it'll come back, especially if they ever, as I hit the microphone, excuse me, if they ever finally get the DLC put out, which has now been changed from 2 weeks ago to TBD. The future is a bit uncertain. They spent somewhere between 165 and 185 million. For math's sake, we're going to say just 175 million. And they sold 3 million copies and officially have lost $63 million on that game. It is officially a flop. The future of the game is uncertain. And Square Enix, again, this is them overestimating the demand of a certain title or a certain game, under-delivering on a game when they do finally get it out there, because the game was buggy as all get out.
It was.
And they released it in no man's land. The game got delayed from March to September, so close to the new generation of consoles, which honestly might give the game a boost. And I guarantee that they're really hoping for that. Although nobody can find a new generation console today because of COVID, there was a manufacturing shortage. I think they're banking on that, and it is a shame because this is something that Square Enix has done before. They haven't learned their lessons, and this is why this is a company that has 3 or 4 times before been on the brink of collapse and have been fortunate enough to bounce back through a variety of means and really some dumb luck. That's how Final Fantasy came about, folks. Final Fantasy was supposed to be the final game of Square because it was literally their last game, and it made so much money, that first Final Fantasy, that it kept them alive. That was the first of many times over Square Enix's history. Most recently, a few years ago with Tomb Raider. They rebooted Tomb Raider. That game sold 4 million copies in its first 3 months. They broke even. You're doing something wrong if you sell 4 million units in video games and you're breaking even. Now, of course, that game went on to continue to sell, and it started to gain some steam later, and ended up becoming a good seller for them. But the first 3 months of a video game release, which is why we're getting these numbers here now for Avengers, is critical to a game and also to a company. And this is why Nintendo is so smart. Nintendo, with Fire Emblem Three Houses in July, released it, or not July, well, last July. Sold 3 million units. It was the best-selling game in the franchise's history. They made a huge profit. Square Enix sells 3 million Avengers units. They lost $60 million.
There's a lot of levels to this too. In those numbers, right? And you might not know this, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But I wonder if there was any licensing fees involved in that.
Oh, I'm sure there were.
Right, that's part of the loss. They did a massive marketing campaign. Now, I'm not just talking TV commercials and YouTube advertisements. That's to be expected. I was getting Amazon boxes with it on there.
It was everywhere.
Yeah, and again, so my problem with that.
Billboards here in LA.
Right, that I don't know if that game needs that type of branding. It's already pretty branded. In fact, what you're doing is saying, "Oh, look, it's not the movie Avengers." You're anti-branding in a way. I'll tell you this. I want to compliment the game. I really enjoyed the story mode. I really did. Okay.
Yeah.
The problem is this. For me, I got the game, was buggy as hell, worked through it, enjoyed the story. I really loved Kamala Khan as a character. Yeah. I hope nobody blames that for the reason that's bombing, because it's not the reason. She's by far the most fun reason in that. But then here's the thing. I beat it, and I'm like, all right, great. I'll wait for this DLC. It's going to be really fun. I'm still waiting for that DLC, and I have not played it since I beat it because I've had no reason to play it. The kind of extra levels in that game are very repetitive, and I have no time or desire to play that. But again, really strong start, really strong game. I really enjoyed it. But what's happening here is this, and for anyone who's played it, they're trying to create a world that you want to keep returning to.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad world they've created, but there's no incentive to return to it. And then, as you said, the release date was a little bit off. I'm going to guess they were hoping that, okay, it's the pandemic. People know these characters. They're going to buy the game. What they should have done is drop the price probably $10 as a thank you. All right.
Well, and especially, and again, another thing I want to bring up is this is also a game that's relying on microtransactions. Now, they're all cosmetic. They're only cosmetic, which is great. But
it's dumb that we have to pay for that, but yeah.
Right, but the thing is that people are like, the costumes in the Avengers, it's not enough to get people to drop real world money. Because again, if you're going into this game and you're going to grind, you're going to get them anyway. And I think this is also an interesting thing because I also think it's a referendum on the games as a service as a genre. Destiny, the last Destiny struggled. The last Division game struggled. Now you have this one. The fact of the matter is that most people, especially older gamers, who this appeals to even more so than younger gamers in terms of the franchise and the branding and the IP, we don't want to sit there and grind for 60 hours for a new costume anymore.
No, we want the story. And here's the thing. I think that's where they underestimated the audience.
Yes.
As everyone here listens knows, I'm a business owner. I have two companies. I'm not going to say any names here because I'm not. This is not a selling point at all. So it's irrelevant what the companies are. But I'll tell you this: they both are in the hockey space. One is an equipment-based company in hockey. Another one is a lifestyle-based company. Yeah. We don't co-brand. We don't market one with the other because for the lifestyle brand, there's no guarantee that those people play hockey. So the equipment wouldn't work for them. Now, the other way around, the other way around makes sense, right? But it's probably a good chance that if you're buying the equipment, you probably play hockey. Right? But I think this is a scenario where maybe Square Enix and even Marvel and Disney in some ways, maybe they overestimated how many people that are watching and buying Avengers movies actually are gamers, number one, because I know there's a lot of gamers out there. All right, or B, are dedicated to that beyond the story. We love Marvel movies because of the story, right? I don't need an immersive world so much. In fact, I just said that. I'm just waiting for more story. Right? You look at what Mortal Kombat 11 did. Like, here's some more story. Here's a whole new story. Oh, you like that? Here's the Terminator, Rambo, who am I forgetting?
RoboCop.
Right? RoboCop. Here's some more story. They're ridiculous, but people bought that in droves.
Yeah.
All right? Because they know these characters. So I don't think it's dead yet. I think they can recover from this. I think the new console generation will be big. They've got to get that DLC out, and it's got to be good.
Yep.
And then
which also makes you question now going with Kate Bishop, the female Hawkeye, as your first DLC character. Because no offense, it's a good character, it's well written, but that's not the home run that you probably need at this moment, like a Spider-Man. And maybe that's part of the reason why they're delaying it. Maybe they've changed their focus on which DLC to get out first.
That's a great point. Maybe they are trying to get Spider-Man out first, And then on top of it, Ray, too, like I said, the ability for them to kind of go beyond where they were at in that storyline. Like I said, the side missions, I don't want to play them. I don't want to grind. That's just me. That's not everybody. I was saying, man, there's a lot of things you could do to make this game better. Now, for those of you at home, you might not know this, but I'm holding a Ragnarok Hulk from the fight, and on my other hand, I'm holding a Ragnarok Hulk from that fight. So these are two toys from McDonald's that my son brought home that I have shamelessly stolen and brought it up to my office. You can hear them in. But look, again, I think that one of the big criticisms of this game, I don't know if it's a criticism, I don't know the word to put here, but was that, it's not like the movies, right? Like, they don't look like they do in the movies. That was one of the big kind of like question marks at the beginning. And now it's like maybe you should lean back into the movies a little bit and maybe bring in Guardians and maybe bring in, this guy Vision or something like that, or this guy.
Well, I mean, they've announced Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, but the fact that they're going with, again, they went with Kate Bishop, female Hawkeye, followed by Clint Barton, actual Hawkeye, as their first. That was their plan for their first two DLCs. It's questionable. Yeah.
So we'll see. It can come back, but the other thing I was gonna say, Ray, is they just stopped marketing after the game came out completely.
That's also true.
All right, I was getting an email every few weeks about like, here's where you're at in the game, and I wasn't even playing it, but they just stopped marketing. Like, that wasn't the time to stop marketing. You need to market right now. Like, hey, it's a pandemic. Play this game.
Yeah.
So now there's more distractions for it in the way. I personally, again, Ray, you're the expert on this, not me. I personally think they can bounce back if they play their cards right. That's
I think, at this point, I think they are having to change their strategy. They always had a long game strategy with this game. Again, because that's the thing with games as a service. You have a multi-year plan. But I think that with such a slow start, they definitely have to reevaluate their next steps because otherwise they're not going to last for the multi-year plan.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially that we mentioned a new generation of consoles this week. Actually, as we're recording today on the 10th, the Xbox Series, the Xbox X, the Xbox X S, and the Xbox Series X both dropped today. One is digital, less powerful. The one, and then obviously the X is the $500 behemoth.
Good luck finding one.
that is the issue. Is that, again, as we mentioned briefly before, there was manufacturing issues again because of COVID. A lot of these systems are made in China, getting them over here to the States, getting them all around the world. So if you didn't get a pre-order, you basically you're good luck finding a system. Same thing with the PS5.
I'll tell you why this is going to pay off for Sony and for Microsoft. And it's basic psychology. Now everyone's going to realize, like, hey, man, I got to get one of these things. All right.
Yeah.
Some of you may be too young to remember this. Some of you might very much remember this. There was a toy called Tickle Me Elmo about 20 years ago that sold out. They didn't make enough of them. And people would fight for this thing in stores. Yeah. And when it came back out, it exploded, right? So this is actually, it's not a good thing for gaming, but it's a good thing for Sony and for Microsoft, because when these things are available, it's like toilet paper. You got to get it. So what do? You don't buy one, right? You buy the biggest box you can get. That's what I'm trying to say. People are going to buy it. Not to mention, right, like I'm looking to get an Xbox Series S, but I might be in a position where it's like you got to get what you can find.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think this is actually going to pay off long term for those systems, because talk about a long term plan. This is a 10-year play. By these gaming systems, by the company.
Well, that's just it. This console generation, even if they do a half step like last time, it's still a 4 to 5 year marketing plan. I mean, and look, I wouldn't be surprised come January, February, where obviously supply will catch up to demand. But it's the holidays. You need to get one, if not both of these systems. I mean, I've been. Lee knows I've been desperately searching for one.
Desperately.
And I mean, even at this point,
we've been looking for you too, Ray. To be fair, for those of you listening, we've been trying to get one before Ray does, so we can bribe him to come over here. But no luck yet. Actually, I went to the store today, and it said on the wall, "We have no consoles here."
I mean,
which I was like, "That's funny." I should have went in and asked anyway. Do you have any consoles?
Any consoles?
Anything?
Any consoles?
PlayStation 2? Anything?
Yeah. No. It's and plus, and PS5 comes out in 48 hours. When this episode airs, the PS5 will come out. It's the same situation. Sony has said that they're even farther behind in terms of supply and demand. Microsoft might actually get out some before a few more before Black Friday.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
Before Christmas.
This was Sony's, in my opinion, only chance to really get a leg up here. Because whoever can make these things the fastest is going to be the holiday item. People will grab whatever they can here. I know there's traditionalists that will wait, but it's the truth is, whoever gets more out first is going to win this right now.
And that's the thing is, and right now Microsoft looks primed to get more out first, whereas Sony's like, we don't know if we're going to be able to get more out before January.
I'm going to say this again, that I believe Microsoft to be making a play to end the console war and take over. I believe that's what's happening right now. I don't think anybody's talking about it, but I think that they are making this play. This is like Nintendo Sega, and I think that Sony is now Sega. All right.
Yeah.
And what's funny, right? When you take a step back and you look at Microsoft as Sony as companies, this actually kind of makes sense. Microsoft is a much better run company than Sony. They're both humongous companies, but like you look what Sony's done with movies, you look what Sony's done with their equipment, right? Like Microsoft's just a much better company. So this, if we're watching it right now, if this is a race, I'm putting my money on Xbox on Microsoft to take over the console wars. Again, Nintendo is Deadpool in this situation. They're just kind of on their own. Yeah. But like
they're always going to be there, breaking the fourth wall, like Mario, Zelda.
Right. Tough to get those, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what does happen. Sony did do one thing this week, a minor thing. For those of you who know, of course, Microsoft has achievements. Sony has trophies. I am a huge achievement person. But Sony, one of the big things for a lot of Sony folks is that a lot of folks maxed out their trophy system years ago. Whereas Microsoft, obviously, the number just keeps going up. You just keep making a bigger number, and now you have people with over 1 million gamer score. So Sony this week rejiggered their trophy system. So now there's 1,000 levels instead of 100. And different people have different things, but I think the thing is the folks who already maxed out the old trophy system, they're pretty much already close to maxing out the new one. So, nice try, Sony, trying to fix a system that really wasn't that great to begin with. But I know folks out there who prefer trophies. They're platinum. They love the platinum trophies. That's what they go for. Which is a nice little thing that Microsoft doesn't have to say, hey, you completed this game, here's an extra trophy. But at the end of the day, I'd rather just have the 100% and rather have my gamer score, which is now just shy of 260,000 than trophies. So Sony still trying to figure out certain things out, even though we're now on the cusp of another console generation. But, so there's that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't have much to say on that. I think we said it all. Is one company is run much better than the other.
Yeah.
I think what Sony's holding on to is Uncharted and Spider-Man.
Yes.
And baseball, if not for long, and then God of War. I mean, that's what I think of. And here's the thing: if you put those on Xbox, I'd buy them in a heartbeat. We've seen this play out before. History dictates Microsoft will take over this space between the Sony and Microsoft war. They will take over that space. I believe in this console generation. I do not think we will see another PlayStation.
You mentioned baseball. The fact that baseball now
Right.
will be developed by Sony, but will also be coming to Microsoft,
Right.
is a huge deal. Because that's what Sega does now, right? Sega's a software developer. They make games. They still make Sonic. They still make a lot of games. But they make it for everyone else's consoles. And you wonder if this isn't the first step to Sony. I mean, obviously, they're going to continue to support this hardware generation.
For sure.
But if this isn't the first domino to start falling.
This is what I will say. I'll make this. As things are going right now, I will make a bold prediction right now that PlayStation 5 will be the last PlayStation.
Wow.
I will make that prediction right now. Yeah, that if this continues to play out the way it's going, this will be the last PlayStation you see. I believe there'll be a joint alliance. I don't think Microsoft wants to kill Sony. I think they want to take Sony and make that their own. And I think that's what's going to happen. That's my prediction. I do not think you'll see a PlayStation 6.
Yeah, I mean, and look, and again, folks, all I've heard is complaints about the PS5 for the folks who have it compared to the Xbox One, Series X. It's not as powerful. Its user interface still sucks. They did a good job. The controller is better. But again, that's not usually enough for a lot of people. No. The software is about the same. Mostly third-party stuff is releasing at launch. Yes, Sony has Spider-Man, but that's about it. And it's a behemoth. It is a massive system that people are like, I can't fit this into my entertainment center. They're looking for places to put it because it's the largest console ever.
It doesn't make any sense, Ray. Do you think it'll be Playbox or X Station?
I think X Station sounds better. I like X Station more.
Yeah, Playbox sounds like something out of a 50 Shades of Grey movie. So let's keep going here. But
yeah, something that you used to see in 1970s New York Times Square.
Do you want to see my Playbox?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
No, I don't.
Moving on to a sad story.
This is sad but triumphant at the same way in a lot of ways.
One of the greatest, arguably one of the greatest game show hosts of all time, an absolute television legend. Before Jeopardy, he also hosted a show called Concentration. He has been in television for me and Lee's entire life, and even beyond that.
Easily.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Alex Trebek lost his gallant battle with pancreatic cancer this week. He was 80 years old. They've announced he did finish his last 35 episodes of Jeopardy, and they will air because that was Alex's wishes. But that is, Alex Trebek has passed on, and he should be remembered as someone who for not only his championing of knowledge and the pursuit of knowledge, but also his kindness. He's also a big hockey fan. He's Canadian. It makes sense. But he's just one of the great personalities of television that will be forever missed. He's an absolute legend, and he had a good life. He had a good run, 80 years, and he lost a battle with cancer, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, look, here's what I'll say, okay? And again, I take an interesting approach to these things. I didn't know Alex Trebek personally, but we all know Alex Trebek, and that's one of the fun things about being on TV or being a TV anchor is you're invited into people's living rooms every night. Night hosts, night talk show hosts have the same thing. But I do take, the understanding that I don't actually know this person, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is how I look at these things, is that a tremendous life, tremendous asset to society. We don't ever give Jeopardy as a show enough credit, as it's so simple, but it is such a pursuit of knowledge. We all did the Jeopardy Wheel of Fortune thing. Jeopardy's always a little bit better than Wheel of Fortune for some reason, because you're learning. That's why. I mean, a lot of people can't put their finger on it. It's because you're learning. You're not just trying to guess a puzzle. Right? You're learning. And then all the great memes in recent years that have come from people watching Jeopardy and not knowing obvious questions to sports questions.
Yeah, apparently video game questions, sports questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's not a key of general knowledge for most people. But look, it's a great life, celebrated life. And again, I like to think of it that way, is that this man led a great life, and how lucky we were to have someone like this. So I like to celebrate his life. I'm not saying nobody should feel sad. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just saying I didn't know the man. So I prefer to
Right.
celebrate lives like this. Like just like Sean Connery and everyone who's passed this year. I think that grief, and this is just my opinion, friends. Please, I'm not trying to tell anybody that if you're grieving for this, it's bad. I just think that, grieving is for when you know people or family.
Right.
When it really does hurt and affect you. I'm not saying this doesn't hurt. I'm just saying that to me, this is like, man, how lucky were we to have Alex Trebek in our lives as a TV host? I'm thankful. That's the way I look at things like this. By the way, I'm thankful for when people in my own life pass on too. It's just much harder. But it's funny. A little quick story about Alex Trebek. He almost didn't take the host of Jeopardy. For a lot of you who don't know, Jeopardy was a show before Alex Trebek took over. But it was offered to him, and he almost didn't take it, and his friends all told him to take it. And then he was on forever, and so many different parodies and shows, from SNL to The Simpsons, so forth and so on. Just a great kind of story arc in terms of this man's life. And I was reading that on the final episode he hosted, because I'm guessing he understood what his situation was. He asked for 30 seconds at the end. So we're even going to get a sign-off from this man from his final episode. So just a beacon for the good that can be there. No one had anything bad to say about him. And my final note was, let's aspire to be more like Alex Trebek. As a good person. He was there for his neighbor. He was a Canadian. Yeah. That's probably why he was such a good person. Right? But, let's aspire to that. There's so much anger. We should aspire to be better. And Alex Trebek is a shining beacon of someone who's done that.
Yeah. So he will be missed. Condolences, as always, to his friends, family, coworkers, those who are closest to him. And we, as the television audience, like we said, the executive producer announced today that it was Alex's wishes that his last season, which he finished taping just 2 weeks ago, would air. So we will get 35 new episodes of Jeopardy with Alex, and that will be it. And life well lived, as Lee mentioned. As we move on now.
I don't know how we're transitioning out of this one.
So
I'm excited to see how you do.
Speaking of lives well lived, we're now going into our friend Kevin Eastman stopped by again, and funny enough, his new comic, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, is about how one turtle deals with the death of his three brothers. So it's actually kind of fitting. But this was a great interview. It was great to have Kevin back, for him to take 15 minutes out of his busy schedule again to sit down with us, talk about this. I geeked out. I was absolutely... We recorded this first thing Sunday morning. I was not... I'm going to say this right now. I don't think I was in my best form. But, as I was rambling over myself. But Kevin, as always, was very gracious. It's always fun to talk to him. We also talked to him about his Patriots, which fortunately, we predicted that the Patriots... this will also lead us into our sports segment on the way out. We predicted his Patriots would beat the Jets, who they almost didn't. But we'll get into that on the other side. Here is me and Lee talking again to Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and his new book, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. Check it out.
Turtle Power.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another very special edition of the Geeks Who Like Sports Leaderboard interviews. We have one of our favorite all-time guests returning here, a longtime friend of the show, the one and only one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for having me on again, you guys. I had such a blast. It's always great to talk to you.
Kevin, I'm going to tell you, this is your second appearance, so we're just going to go ahead and tell everybody you're a reoccurring guest. It helps us. I don't think it helps you too much, but it helps us, and it makes us feel good. No, it is great to have you here, and we're really excited about the occasion because we want to talk about Ronin. Ray and I have both picked up a copy of this. I'm going to dive right into the first question because it's been bewildering Ray and I. All right, this is a dark, gritty, sometimes bloody Turtles world that maybe we haven't seen too much of. It's a short question, but a strong one. Why now? Why are we seeing this now?
Well, it's interesting that looking back to the original story that Pete and I wrote in 1987, it was around the time we were just finishing Turtles 11, and it was kind of that core group of issues that set up this foundation of Turtles, and we were like, so where do we want to go from here? And this idea of sort of like, well, let's look 30 years down the road, see where they might be then, and then then we can start navigating our path there. And suddenly we started making cartoons and toys, and everything sort of pushed to the side. Similarly, in 2019, as Tom Waltz and myself and the whole team at IDW were heading towards issue 100, we were looking past issue 100, and we were sort of like, well, where do we go from there? And I dusted off the story and showed it to Tom about a year, probably late 2018, and we just said, this is the time to go to this place, to that original story, and go to that world, and make it kind of a love poem to all things Mirage Studios, a little bit Dark Knight-ish, if you will, in many respects. Yeah, it was just the perfect storm to jump in and tell this kind of story and make it that intense.
Wow.
Because you think, not to babble on further, but in so many ways, Last Ronin, it really embodies everything that was set up in Turtles issue 1. The Turtles were found, mutated, found, trained for revenge, to kill Oroku Saki, and seek vengeance for Master Splinter. So here we are, 36, 37
Right.
years later or whatever, all these years later, and it's firmly based in that first issue of Turtles, and we're taking it.
That's
very
incredible.
seriously.
So this is a full circle project for you.
Yes. Yeah,
Wow.
100%. So.
Very cool. So of course, for those who don't know, that's TMNT, The Last Ronin, the first of 5 issues. When this will air, we're recording this on Sunday, November the 8th, but when this will air, it's been already out for a week, so if you haven't picked it up yet, go to your local comic book store, try and get it. It's also available on places like Comixology. But what's interesting is, and so spoiler alert, I want to put that out there because this is only the first issue up with spoiler alert, but I want to ask, at the very end of the issue, it's revealed who the Last Ronin is. And without, I'm going to try and avoid saying who it is, but without saying who that is, why reveal here at the end of the first issue who the Last Ronin is, and not maybe delay that a little further, like later in the series, or even, maybe the beginning of issue 2, especially because you do a great job of leading up to that reveal of these breadcrumbs and kind of throwing us off the trail of who it might be by the weapons the Ronin uses, and he sees one of the interesting things. He sees the ghost of his brothers, and you can kind of feel like, oh, that turtle might have said that line. So I don't think that this is the Ronin who it is. So why reveal at the end? Long story short, sorry as I'm rambling here.
We're excited, Kevin. We're excited.
Yeah, we're super excited. I really, why reveal at the end of the first issue who the Ronin is?
That was the plan from the beginning. We really felt that, because we did have a discussion of saying, like, well, how if we push it off to the opening of issue 2 or things, and we just felt like we didn't want to take that moment away. I felt like, the last word in the last issue being the name of who the Last Ronin and was just the perfect timing. As storytellers, Tom and I worked together really, really well, and we felt that this was perfect, because we also, looking down the road towards issue 2 and 3, you're going to have there'll be similar things going on. I think the last couple pages of each issue will, take you to a place where you'll be like, what?
Yeah.
So we want that intensity, and much like the fast pace of issue 1, it's going to continue right down to the what we're going to do in issue 5. And the fun part of this whole series was really going back to some of the original Mirage Studios formulas and formats of, the larger stories, 40 pages, oversized, closer to the original books and things. So we really pulled out all the stops and wanted to make sure that we paid respects and just told a really great story, and we're pretty pumped.
Yeah, we are too. I mean, you can really sink your teeth into this, especially to our viewers. And I think one of the cool things about letting everybody know who it is it takes away maybe the distraction of trying to figure out who it is, right? Like, we know we can really dive into the story now. At least that's what I'm taking from it. And that's bold and awesome and absolutely par for you, sir, which is awesome.
I want to give a special shout out to, because Tom and I are writing the stories and the scripts, and then I'm doing the layouts like, we used to do back in the old days with Peter. But the Escosa brothers, Isaac and Esau, who are doing the finish art on that, they went all in, Dark Knight, and then we're adding to the lineup starting in issue 2 is Ben Bishop, my a fellow Mainer who we're working on drawing blood together, but Ben's doing some of the flashbacks in a couple of the issues. So it's a great team of guys, and man, just could not be more thrilled to be working with all of them.
Very cool. Another great thing about I found in the first issue was, of course, all the little Easter eggs that are scattered throughout. The one that immediately jumped out to me was the Bisley fuel truck, which I imagine is you did a book with Simon Bisley, of course, Body Count, which is a Raph and Casey Jones story a couple years ago, and so I imagine that was a little bit of a tribute to him, and I'm sure that there's a couple other things scattered throughout the issues as well.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that through because there are moments, and again, not giving any spoilers, but this leans heavily on the Mirage universe. Obviously, that was intended from day one. That's where Peter and I created the story originally. But you're going to see lots of cool stuff like that. I'm trying not to give anything away, and I'm terrible at it. I think that's probably why we ended up letting Michelangelo, letting the Last Ronin, letting the name of the Last Ronin out by the first issue, because Tom and I would be like, and because we worked so far ahead, but and so we didn't want to spoil it for anybody.
We gave about 5 spoiler alerts before we started this episode.
So,
put in the post. So if you feel spoiled, we warned you. That's how we have to tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly. So now I'm glad that you said it. So that can answer. Now I can ask you another question. Is sure. That you said it goes back to the Mirage verse, obviously, and it does, to me as a longtime Turtles fan, make a lot of sense that it is Mikey, because it's always been explained that Mikey had the most potential of all his brothers. Was that something is that something in the back of your head, obviously, when you made the decision to make the Last Ronin Mikey, or what went into the decision to make it Mikey in the end?
Many things, but just before he was even named Michelangelo, the first turtle ever drawn was with the nunchucks and the mask, and so I felt the firstborn homage, but also the Tom and I both really like the story arc opportunities where you would take someone like Mikey, who's a little bit more easygoing and lighthearted, and just he's still a great fighter, and all those kind of things, but he's a bit more easygoing. To see his arc of where he starts and where he has to go in the story was the most interesting, certainly as a writer, and I feel like we're all immediately sympathetic to Michelangelo as a character, so I feel like we've already kind of got you, and then you really want to see how all of this comes together, and it was we almost feel like we had no other choice. It was just that perfect. It fit that well. So.
Right, Kevin, I do want to dive a little bit into that process, because I'm completely intrigued by it. And I'll ask it in this way, right? How do you deconstruct Mikey from the character that we know into a adult number one, right? And then out for complete revenge or whatever word you want to put there. What is the process mentally to deconstruct him? Because like you said, very happy-go-lucky, right? Very fun, relatable, and you have to deconstruct him into the character he is in this book. What is the process to do that? As a character you've known so long.
Well, it's not it's not easy, but at the same time, it's sort of like you have to put yourself in the mindset, and you think when you really look at the Turtles as a family and what they based on issue 1, they were raised for vengeance, and
right.
And as their life has continued, if you take a person, no matter how good humored and all that stuff, and you put into a series of circumstances like being put into a war zone, an ongoing war zone, it just changes you. You have to change, and you have to adapt, and there's just no time to be that person used to be. And so as you find out as the story evolves, how he got from there to there, and the things that happen that sort of take that edge off and change you as a person, and then when sometimes you only have left is what you have left of your family, it's where you're going to stand the tallest and strongest and fight for it. And so that's really where we put Mikey through that.
It's very deep, and it's echoed in the comic too. It's obvious. Yeah,
it's pretty intense, and it was intended to be so. And I think that you have moments like the ending of each issue will, like I said earlier, would be some very revealing and intense things going on. But we wanted it to be that way, and again, respect to some of the very, very original fans that bought those earlier Mirage issues and started there, and the fans that have grown up with the Turtles, started with the cartoon show, and you end up in the IDW universe. This is again, it's a universe within itself, so it's for us. It's for us big kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is definitely not for the 7-year-old Ray who grew up with the Turtles. This is definitely more for the 35-year-old Ray who's very much enjoying it now.
I don't think they'll be making action figures of.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'd get him if you did. Just saying.
You squeeze Mikey
Right.
and he spits up blood. Yeah, it's absolutely it'd be a super. Instead of karate chopping action, now that's the new action figure feature. So we'd be remiss, of course, we're here at Geeks Like Sports. We'd be remiss. We don't want to take up too much more of your time, Kevin. We know you've got a very busy schedule, but we also know you are a big Patriots fan, and your team is unfortunately not doing so well with Cam Newton at the helm. You guys are 2-5 right now, about to take on the Jets on Monday Night Football, a game you should win. We predict that you will win, but that's why they play the game. And again, we're recording this on Sunday before all the games take place. But what are your thoughts on your Patriots this year, and what's going up with the 2-5 record?
Well, I always go back to I was a fan of the Patriots through all those years that they weren't very good, or that they just were outright terrible. And then those times that we'd get to the Super Bowl and then just lose it in such an epic way. So we had all those years to prepare for slower seasons, and Mr. Brady did wonderful things for many, many years. The whole team did great things for many, many years, and we're proud of that. But you never lose faith. They're your team to the end, and so you say your prayers, you send out all the positive vibes, and you hope for the best. But hardcore Patriots fan, no matter what, that'll never go away.
I hope all the New York Yankees and Giants fans are listening right now, Kevin, because that was elegantly put, and I agree with you in every sentiment of the way.
Look, I am still a Giants fan. We are having a worse season than the Patriots are. All right, I'm just very, very critical of my team right now for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
Right.
In our division, Kevin, if you're not first, you're absolutely last.
Well, listen, I want to say first, it's been an absolute blast coming back on the show. We've got another 7-8 months of the last Ronin, so why don't you circle back in a couple months and we can do a report card. You can let me know how we're doing.
Yes,
thanks for having
sure.
Thanks
well,
for being
right
here.
Right now, you've got an A+. So we're really enjoying it, Kevin. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And definitely, you have to come back on again. You're always more than welcome here.
Appreciate you guys so much. Have the great rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you live and in person one day soon. But we'll talk before then.
Yes, sir. Take care, buddy.
Take care, Kevin.
Thanks.
So, yeah, thank you again to Kevin Eastman, of course, for coming on the show.
Legend.
Absolute legend. This is a great book. Honestly, we read the first issue. Again, we gave it an A+. This is a great first issue. If you're any kind of a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's a great alternate take on things. And
he did say a couple times it's a Dark Knight feel. So if you're a fan of that, this is one you want to pick up. If you haven't read comic books in years, this is one you want to pick up. Yep. I'm enjoying it. It does have that feel. If you want to wait till they're all out, I understand that too. Some people don't like to wait week to week. But very interested where this is going. You kind of pick up on it right away. And it's going to be fun. And it's very dark. It is not the comic. It's not the Turtles from when you were a kid.
It is a great take on it. And Kevin Eastman. And we also mentioned we talked about his Patriots and the Jets. We predicted the Patriots would beat the Jets. Not really going on a limb there, although the Patriots almost did blow it. As we now move into our sports section, the Patriots were down the whole game, and they came back late. They actually finally completed the game-winning drive there at the end. Cam Newton marched them down into field goal range. Former Jet Nick Folk hit the game-winning field goal. But you really shouldn't be feeling too good about yourselves when you beat the 0-9 Jets to get back to 3-5. Still a far reach from the playoff picture in the AFC. But I mean, if you watch the game, I watched a little bit. It was a better game than you expected, but it also, I think, shows how far the Patriots have fallen with Cam Newton at the helm, Lee, because the Jets almost beat them. The Jets are terrible.
Right. I mean, look, a few things out of that game. I think the Jets will win a game this season now after having seen that. That gave them the life they probably need. They came up short, but if you're in the Jets locker room now, it's like, guys, we're close. We got to get one. We can't go defeated this season. We can't join the Browns.
The Browns and the Lions,
Yeah, so I think that they probably will win a game this year. It's funny. If they lost that game, what would have happened is all eyes would have went to Belichick right away. Like, what's going on? Now, I don't think that's going to happen as much. Look, I still believe Bill Belichick is going – he is the greatest coach of all time, and I believe he will get that team together. I do not know. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know if it's a chemistry problem. I don't know if it's just the quarterback can't get his act together problem. It's never one thing. I do know that you took out an essential piece of that puzzle in Brady, and that it's not easy just to fling that around and things be okay. I think we also have to keep in mind we're in the middle of a COVID era here. The quarterback got COVID. I mean, there's a lot of distractions going on. This is my guess. This is not the best environment for someone like Belichick to thrive in, okay?
Yeah, someone who controls everything,
I was just going to say, there's a lot about this that he can't control, and this is a guy who thrives on his ability to control lots of distractions. And look, it's just not the Pats' year. But if anybody's counting this team out, I mean, in terms of the future, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
They will get it back together. I think they just there's a lot going on outside of that locker room that's distracting the team. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Belichick gets a free pass from me and everybody else in the league.
Yeah.
And if a lot of people doing it's obvious that Brady was a bigger piece of that puzzle than Belichick. Give me a break. Please.
Yeah, because if that were true, Brady wouldn't have lost by 5 touchdowns to the Saints this week.
Right.
So
you can't
it
say
just
that in the middle
shows
of a season.
Yeah, you can't say this shoulda, woulda, coulda. Belichick's working with admittedly less talent right now. I mean, look, Cam Newton. There have been a couple of drives there where if Cam Newton had played even to where Cam Newton was 3 or 4 years ago, these Patriots might be fighting for the division with the Bills.
How far out are they from that division lead? Is it done?
They're 4 games back now. Because the Bills won again. They are 7-1, I believe. They beat up on the Seahawks, or 7-2, so 3.5 back. But that's
is there any chance that the Pats can make that wild card spot this year?
They could make a wild card. I think the division is out of reach, but if they go on a run, they could definitely make a wild card.
So this is what I'm saying, is if we've learned anything from the past, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying you have to have this in the back of your head. We have seen Patriots teams flounder before and come back, roaring back and winning as soon as something clicks. That may still happen this year. Same thing with the Bucs on the opposite side of this. If you're looking at the Brady story, the Brady side of this, they just showed you that, look, they have some pretty glaring gaps in their team still that doesn't guarantee anything. So I will say this as the sports guy here. A game is not won by a player. A game is not won by a coach. The game is won by a team, and that is all that matters. But I've seen the Patriots with Brady so many times be counted out only to go on and win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl. So I think people need to calm down. I know the season's in the second half, obviously, here, but let's see how it plays out. That's what you got to do. I know people want to make these quick predictions and know it all. And unfortunately, guys, when you work in sports, this is not how it goes. It's a day-to-day process. It's a week-to-week process. You don't look 10 games ahead. You look right to today, in the moment, what you're doing in the game you're playing. And when you're in the game, it becomes minutes. It becomes minutes. What am I doing in this play? What am I doing on this drive? You don't think to 6 weeks from now. So sports fans love to do that, but I've just been trained not to. That's why you don't hear me speculate too much unless we're talking about Xbox and Sony.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's too. And then even going back to Brady, right? Like that's why that game got out of hand. Was the Saints made a couple plays? It came down to a couple plays that turned the momentum of that game. A couple of 4th down plays where the Bucs went for it. They didn't get it. So that you left points on the board several times and instead of kicking field goals, you gave it up. And then that game got out of hand. And credit to where it's due, Drew Brees is still also one of the all-time greats, and he picked apart that Bucs defense.
I think it's important to say, and he's also several years younger than Tom Brady, and that plays.
Well, I mean, he's not a lot younger.
He's not. He's not 10 years younger than him, but he's younger than him. Is my point?
He's like a year or two.
That's a huge year. No, I'm just saying. Look, my point to you is that these are two guys. First off, that's Drew Brees with his established team and Tom Brady with his new team.
Yes.
Again, this shouldn't be as much of a shocker. I mean, I was hoping for a better game. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hoping for a shootout.
The funny thing was the only person who looked good on offense was Antonio Brown.
Right. Which and then there's already rumors that that's not working out, which I think is a little unfair. Let's give those guys some time.
Yeah.
Right. You can't just walk back into the NFL in week 1 of your comeback and be like, oh, everything's great.
Yeah.
Even if you did play well. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I mean, that's very interesting. Other stories around the league. We mentioned the Bills beat up on the Seahawks. That's a huge game just because Buffalo looks for real. They look like a real legit threat with Josh Allen. They're 7-2. They put up 44. It's the most points that a Pete Carroll team has ever given up in the NFL anyway. And it's They look really good. Like I said, running away with the division. The Dolphins won. Tua had a much better game 2 than game 1, which is to be expected. Obviously, you shake the rust off your second game as a starter. He looked very good. So the Dolphins are fighting for a wild card. The Chiefs continue to roll. Much closer game than people expected against Carolina. Carolina, I think, is a piece or two away from being legit contenders again. Teddy Bridgewater, no, he's a winner. Teddy Bridgewater, wherever he's gone, whenever he's played, whether it was New Orleans or Minnesota, he wins. He's just injury prone. And he had that team on the cusp of a huge upset victory in Kansas City. But Mahomes just outplayed him in the second half. Mahomes. Yeah, and it just a close one there. The Raiders win again. So them two on the bubble. Gruden's got them playing hard.
Gruden got fined again.
Yeah, the Vikings have suddenly gotten healthy against division opponents. They beat up on the Packers and then beat up on the Lions. I don't know if the Vikings are going anywhere. Them two, they'd have to go on a run. They're 3-5 now, but. When you go from 1-5, then you beat back-to-back division rivals in back-to-back weeks. They could be the kind of boost that suddenly a team goes on a 6, 7, 8 game winning streak and can turn a season around. And speaking of beating division rivals,
wait. But are you going into our division now, or are you going into another division?
I was going into our division, but if you have other games you'd like to highlight, please, by all means.
But before, I want to go into our division, but I want to say this before you start, that this is how bad the NFC East is, right? The Eagles somehow managed to win this week, and they didn't even play a game.
Yeah.
But if you think about this, Ray, all 3 NFC East teams, even though 2 of them played each other, lost this week. Big time.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll let you get into it, but like this is the NFC East. The Eagles had a bye week, and somehow we came out better from this week than we did without playing the game.
Well, that's the thing is so Dallas, not surprisingly, I'll say this, actually Pittsburgh is one of the worst 8-0 teams I've ever seen. I know your record. You are what your record says you are.
They are who they say they are.
Right, but at the same time, they almost blew it to the 4th-string quarterback against the Cowboys. They needed a last-second touchdown to beat them. I think it was 25-19 was the final.
Right. It's close.
Pittsburgh did not play very well. But maybe them too, they're a team that they played Baltimore amazing 2 weeks ago. So it's maybe a team that, and we've seen this before a few times this year, that plays down or up to the level of its competition.
Right.
That said, Dallas lost. They are sitting with 2 wins, 2-6. And Washington is 2-6 after the Giants, for the second year in a row, have swept the season series with Washington. It's the only team Daniel Jones knows how to beat. But I'll also say this week, and like you said, now the Eagles have a solid 1.5 to 2 game lead on everyone in the division because of that. The Giants' offense is still terrible. Daniel Jones, this is his 22nd career start. This is only the 2nd time in his career he has not had a turnover in a game. And he still fumbled. He just recovered it. Washington didn't fall on it. So the offense, and then the thing is, they won 23-20. It's like, oh, well, the offense is doing better. No, the defense is doing even better. Again, the Giants' defense is a top 5 defense with a bottom 3 offense. The Giants, I don't know if this has ever happened before. The Giants had a +5 in the turnover battle. They had 3 interceptions and recovered 2 fumbles against Washington, and still only won by 3, 23-20. That just goes to show you how bad our offense is. We picked it off there late. Daniel Jones, the offense went 3 and out, punted it back to Washington with 1:40 left. The defense is like, all right, I guess we're going to pick them off again. And then finally got into the Giants needed 1 first down to ice that game, much like they need against the Eagles a couple weeks ago. And the offense couldn't do it. They choked it away. And fortunately this time, the defense forced the turnover again against Alex Smith, who is now the starting quarterback of Washington after the Giants. The Giants have broken as many quarterback ankles this year as they have wins. I'm sorry, it's a gruesome stat, but it's true.
It's true.
Jabril Peppers, an unfortunate hit on Kyle Allen. Obviously no intent. He just rolled up on him. It was a real bad, fluky play. And it just... Kyle Allen out, and for some reasons they don't want to go with Haskins, who I think is still a very serviceable quarterback. They put Alex Smith in, and Alex Smith threw 3 picks. No surprise, off the bench, it's a great story. He's automatically comeback player of the year after nearly having his leg amputated. But, Giants somehow, for once, instead of finding a way to lose, find a way to win. But I'm sorry, you force 5 turnovers, you only score 23 points on offense. You got to start pointing fingers at guys, either at the guy calling the plays and Garrett, and you got to start pointing the fingers at Daniel Jones. Oh, he didn't turn the ball over this week. Oh, bravo for the second time in your career in 22 starts, you didn't throw an interception or fumble or lose a fumble. That's pathetic. It's pathetic. It is. It's pathetic. And I'm sorry, he's still a dumpster fire. He's still garbage, even after winning a game this week. The true test will be this coming week. If the Giants can knock off the Eagles, which, again, we came real close down in Philly, who knows what's going to happen in the NFC East?
Well, let's set this up for our viewers because they're going to root for against us or for us. So the Giants season, not the Eagles season, the Giants season now comes down to this game on Sunday afternoon.
Pretty much.
So basically, because it's a division game, because they're a game and a half behind the Eagles, if they can beat the Eagles here, they have a chance of actually winning the division somehow because of the season series. But if they lose this game, the season is over. And if I'm not mistaken, Ray, it wouldn't eliminate you from the playoffs, but it's pretty much you can't. You'd have to win the division through wins,
yes,
which is just incredibly not possible. I'll put it that way. So.
Honestly,
the Giants.
For the Giants to make the playoffs, they basically have to win out.
You have to win out, yeah, and like you said, you have to do that to win, and the Eagles have to lose too.
Right.
So again, there was that stat that the Eagles. This is true as of today. Today's date, by the way, is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. The Eagles have a better chance of making the playoffs and winning their division. Better chance of winning their division than the 8-0 Steelers.
Yeah.
That's how bad the division is right now.
Yeah.
So I'll say this: the season's riding on it. Not just because I'm a fan. I put my money on the Eagles for multiple reasons. They're healthier. They have a better quarterback. Yeah. But this is the other thing I know. In the NFC East or the NFC Least, you never know who will win when those two teams play each other. I've been saying that for years. On paper, it's obvious the Eagles. There's so much pent-up hatred between these teams. You really don't know. All I know, Ray, is that if your defense hurts my quarterback, I have a particular set of skills. I will look for you. I will find you, and I will call you.
That would be crazy if the Giants broke the legs of every starting quarterback in the division.
Well, then all of a sudden you'd be the only one with a starting quarterback, which would be Daniel Jones.
Which would be amazing. I was going to say, do we really have a starting quarterback then?
Well, listen. I mean, our backup is Hurts. So that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. So that would be amazing if you did that, but I don't wish any ill will on.
I don't wish it either. It's just really fluky.
Like I said, every NFC East team technically lost this week, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think the division is really riding on this game for you on Sunday, and I'm looking forward. It's always fun. The game after a bye week is always fun if you win. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Eagles play. Maybe they got their act together again. Look, the Eagles have said this. A lot of people don't agree with me. I think they're closer to clicking than people think. I just don't think they've clicked yet. Like something's just not there yet, and it might not be. They might not find it. But if they click, watch out. We got some good players in Philadelphia.
You do. You do have some good players. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this week, like you said. Right. It coming off the bye, that could either hurt you or help you, depending on how you prepare. And again, even with the Giants having lost 8 in a row to the Eagles, most of those have been very close games. Again, the last one was by 1 point because if Evan Engram makes that catch, you guys don't get the ball back. But unfortunately, that's what he dropped it. Dropped it. You guys get the ball back. You march down, get the game-winning touchdown.
Well, and we should know that while the Giants know they have to win this game, the Eagles know they have to win it too. So it's going to be an interesting game.
For sure. Both teams will be very much up for
This
it.
is a stranglehold on the division if we win that game too. Because
you basically that's at that point the division is yours to lose, and you'll be 2 games up on everybody.
And we have Dallas and we have Dallas and
Washington.
Skins. And that's back to back. I believe the end of the season.
Yeah. But you pretty much will have a strength. You'll be up by 2 games on everybody, and it'll be up to I'd be surprised if you guys lost it at that point. But we would see what happens.
Eagles fly.
Okay, all right, simmer down now. Moving
Fight,
on
fight,
to
fight.
Actually the NBA. This was good news. The NBA player reps have agreed on a 72 game schedule, which is 10 games less than normal, and a season start of December 22nd.
With a CBA change too, which we predicted. I want to say that because we did predict that the NBA and NHL will have to renegotiate their CBA for this season, and they have, which is great news.
Yeah, so the NBA moving steps closer to. I mean, it'd be great if they could start the season potentially in about 5 or 6 weeks.
You know, it would be great, Ray, if we could get less than 100,000 cases of COVID a day, so this could actually happen. So I'm hoping that plays out.
Yeah, that is a whole nother story.
I'm just saying, we got it. Wear your mask if you want basketball.
Wear your mask.
Football or
We've
baseball.
been saying it all along. Wear your mask. We've had good news on that front, but it's still going to be months before.
Listen, the reason I'm bringing the negative into it is that it's great that they did this, but this is all tentative considering they can do it. We have to stop forgetting the coronavirus is out there.
Yeah.
Again, great news that their vaccines are moving forward and that there's potential light at the end of the tunnel here. That's good news. I don't care who you voted for. That's good news.
Yep.
All right. So I'm saying, though, is that like we have to come together here because these are all tentative plans, assuming they can keep the health of people. The more cases, the more chance guys get it. The more chance guys get it, the more chance there's shutdowns and seasons go away. We are arguably worse off from a case count right now than we were when things got shut down the first time.
Oh, by far.
Okay,
Sure.
we just know more, right? So it's just it's great that they're planning. I would not be surprised if these get pushed back. I think as of right now, a Christmas start to me is highly unlikely if things continue to go the way they're going from a health standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm not getting my hopes up just yet.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a negative on it. Just I'm being honest.
No,
I'm always honest
for sure.
on this show.
I mean, look, you need to have the business stuff taken care of for sure.
Totally.
But yeah,
totally. I'm sure they have contingencies too. I'm sure they have post Christmas starts as well planned out.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But and speaking of COVID, that brings us now to the league that doesn't know what it's doing, which is Major League Baseball. Not only is Justin Turner not getting punished for coming out onto the field after being tested positive for COVID and taking the team photo and taking his mask off and kissing his girlfriend. It's now up to, as of this morning, 9 Dodgers, staff and players. They haven't said who, but they said 9 Dodgers now have COVID, including Justin Turner. So that was 5 yesterday. That almost doubled from yesterday to today in terms of the count. So good job, Justin Turner, super spreader Justin Turner, World Series champion, super spreader Justin Turner. That's all you're going to be known as from now on in my book. Every time you take the field, it's like, oh, there's the super spreader. Almost not as good as super shredder, which goes back to Kevin Eastman, but that's
I'll take it. Fine. Well, Super Shredder was undersold and didn't exist for more than a few minutes either. So that was a downer. Thanks, Ray, for making it all depressing about Super Shredder. We didn't get him for long. Look, here's the deal. There's levels to this. Number one, most importantly, this just goes to show that whether you're asymptomatic or not, if you have this thing, you will give it to other people. Yeah. It is a guarantee. The medical science shows, again, I'm married to a doctor. There's a lot of doctors. You can ask any of them. If you are near somebody with this, you will get it, whether you're asymptomatic or not. Don't be dumb about that. It's very real. Number 2, guy broke a rule. If there's anything we've known about Manfred and the MLB is that you are allowed to break rules.
Yep.
What kind of I almost cursed there. What kind of a precedent are you setting for your athletes? And this league, it is.
And the general public, you're supposed to be an example.
Ray, I told myself I was going to bury my anger on this one, but it's coming up. I'm not lying to you. This is ridiculous. From the Astros cheating to just horrendous mismanagement of this season from a medical safety standpoint, in which a lot of baseball fans said they did a great job. You're wrong.
They did not.
You are wrong.
I'm the biggest baseball fan in the world. They did not.
All right? I've heard a lot of baseball fans defend the league. They did a
No.
horrendous job.
No.
Horrendous. And we have the proof by looking at the other leagues.
Yep.
All right? Turner's behavior not only endangered lives. I don't care what you say. He endangered lives
Yep.
by doing this. And then it's not punished.
Yeah.
Ray and I spoke about this off the air. I'm really trying to keep my cool now. You can say what you want about Roger Goodell as the NFL commissioner.
Yeah.
He made bad calls, questionable calls. You can totally have those debates. Here's the difference. With all of the calls Goodell's made, whether you agree with them or not, there is always another side that can somehow justify why he did what he did.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's suspension length or decisions or drafts, there's always some other side of like, well, this is how you could potentially justify that. There is no justification for the Astros cheating and getting away with it.
Yep.
There's no justification for the stupid, dumb, idiotic policies of this regular season and letting teams get COVID. There is no justification for allowing a player, whether he did it under his own volition or not, coming back on the field with a positive test twice over and not punishing this athlete.
Yeah.
Which he made his decision. I guarantee you all listening, I guarantee you, he was in the locker room and he said to himself, I am going to get suspended for this. I am going to get taken out for this, and it's worth it. And that's the decision he made.
Yeah.
It's worth it to celebrate my World Series title. That's his decision. He owns it. All right? Nothing can change it now. I'm not going to go back to whether he should have done it or not. It's painfully obvious. But for Manfred and the MLB not to say, listen, we're going to suspend you for this, and here's why, and send that message to your players when you're absolutely going to have to start next season in a similar environment.
Yep.
Where you're willing to suspend a pitcher for making a face and throwing a ball at someone.
Yeah.
Which is less deadly than COVID, by the way.
Yeah.
This guy's got to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
I mean, they threatened to suspend Trevor Bauer over his cleats, what he wore in his cleats.
I'm going to say this again. I rarely, if ever, am critical of people in these positions because there's a lot that goes into them that we don't see. This is a gross misconduct of the commissioner position for baseball. The job is to operate in the needs and necessity of the sport and of Major League Baseball to protect the teams, the owners, and the players. I have seen that fail on every level of what I just said. The owners fail on the cheating. The teams failed on the COVID outbreaks, and the players now by allowing this man to come back on the field unpunished.
Yeah.
I'm done with baseball. I'm done. Yeah. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I continue to get hurt by this sport. I'm sorry.
No, it's perfectly fair. It's completely understandable. I mean, you summed it up perfectly. This is a gross misconduct. And the fact that Manfred refuses to... And baseball typically is one of the harshest leagues when it comes to punishments over the course of its history.
That's what I don't understand.
But Manfred is absolutely a pushover. I don't know if he's scared of the CBA that's coming up, if he's scared of...
Gotta go.
What? But he is done. He is terrible. And also, I also want to say this because we're going to stay on this. We don't typically talk about... We're going to transition now to college football. We don't typically talk a lot about college football. But big game this week, Clemson versus Notre Dame, 1-3, huge in the rankings. I predicted Notre Dame was going to win. I was correct. They actually won in double overtime. They came back crazy.
Great game. It's a great game.
Trevor Lawrence, arguably he's going to probably be the number 1 overall draft pick. Best quarterback coming into the draft, no doubt.
To the Jets.
Champion, probably. Well, he said he might actually stay in college for his senior year if the Jets have number 1 pick.
Smart.
He had COVID. He tested positive for COVID. Still had COVID. Was on the sideline for the game on Saturday. Yes, he was wearing a mask. He wore a mask sometimes when it was convenient for him. And he wasn't playing, but he was still on the sideline because he had COVID. He couldn't play. He had COVID. What is he doing there on the sideline? And when traveling up to South Bend, by the way, it wasn't even a Clemson home game. Traveling with the team from Clemson to Notre Dame. And then to make matters worse, then Notre Dame messed up because then Notre Dame won. Again, it was a great game. Came down to the wire, double overtime. And thousands of Notre Dame fans, not a full crowd, but still a pretty big crowd, easily 5 to 10,000 people, leapt onto the field and stormed the field, all this green. Trevor Lawrence loses his mask, coughing on everybody, surrounded by everybody. You want to talk about the next super spreader event? I can't wait to see what happens in South Bend, Indiana in the next 2 weeks. And I hope I'm wrong. God, my mouth to God's ears, I hope I'm wrong. But those kids and that stadium, I hope that Notre Dame and Clemson both lose scholarships, that they're punished financially for this, because that has the makings of an unmitigated disaster, even worse than the Justin Turner situation.
Look, I'll say this too. Why they let people into that building, I don't understand. Look, again, I'm going to equate this to sports, but it's a larger picture. Because, look, there were also people, I'm not saying right or wrong, celebrating in the streets this past week for another event. Again, this is my thoughts alone. You don't have to agree with me on this. They're going to shut down the country again if we're not careful here. All right. Yep. England has done it. England has shut down for 4 weeks. You are not allowed out after dark. France has done it. And again, I'm not saying that our government's a little different. I'm not saying they can ever tell you what to do. I'm not going there with this. They will shut things down again. I'm seeing it. I mean, it depends on where you live. Some states are shut down. Massachusetts is shut down right now. We are going to get shut down again if we're not smart about this. And and the thing is, this is the bigger thing, Ray, and this is where I equate it back to sports. And I guess a little bit of politics. We're showing people on the TV that it's okay to go out and congregate.
Yeah.
It's not okay, people. I don't know how else to say it. Again, whether you think it's real or fake. I mean, I'm married to someone who's seeing it daily. It's not fake. I don't know what to say. If you're only thinking about yourself and not the people around you and your family members around you, I don't know what to say. I honestly don't know what to say. I know this is hard. I really do, but we've been asked to stay at home and play Xbox and watch Netflix. And just be smart when you go out and wear a mask. We have to put some of this crap aside, our differences, and just know that we're gonna get shut down again. I don't want that.
You need to believe in math and science,
right, folks. Right. Just put a mask. I'm saying I want sports. That's why I wear my mask. It's one of the many reasons I wear my mask. I want to watch sports again, please.
It's super easy.
Sorry. I know most of you agree with us on this. Most of this audience does, but and I don't want to lecture. I'm just saying that I'm a team builder. We got to come together on this. This is getting ridiculous. We're going to get shut down again. It's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And even if all you care about even is the economy, how many even to take it from that angle, you know how many more shops and businesses and whatnot are going to close if we shut down again?
I care drastically about the economy.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to find other angles to try and get people through people's head, because I walk down the street and every other week there's somebody else's shop that I know here in my neighborhood that's closing up, that they can't stay open anymore. And again, you could also say, well, I'm not going to get into that the government should also be helping more and all that other stuff right now. But even that, there's only so much they can do if we shut down again.
Look, again, you have the freedom. You have the freedom not to go out. You have the freedom to go out. Just all I would ask is think about your neighbor. That is what made this country so great, to paraphrase, was that we cared about each other for a long time. I remember that growing up. And I hear a lot of people now, we don't care about each other. No, we still do. I think most people actually still do, because I see it. I see daily acts of kindness everywhere I go. We're just a little bit polarized right now. Just let's take care of each other and end this thing. We can beat this. There's nothing we can't do if we work together. That's true. That's true. To quote multiple people with that.
Yeah. So
on that happy note, what are we going to next, Ray?
Oh, goodness. Well, speaking of baseball punishing the wrong people or not punishing people, and people not getting punished. This is our last sports story of the day. Jeff Luhnow, I don't know if I'm saying that right, the former Astros general manager, is suing the Astros and Major League Baseball. And actually, I'm kind of on board with him with this, because he is saying that in a league that didn't punish any of the players that actually committed the cheating act in 2017 and 2018, and that he was just the GM up in the press box who didn't know anything about it, that he was wrongfully fired. That he was the scapegoat for something that the players and managers did on the field, and he's looking for financial compensation. And honestly, guy's got a point. He's got a point. Nobody else in the field, nobody on the field got punished. Nobody who actually did anything got punished. The guy up in the press box who's just crunching the numbers He's the dude who got punished. He's out of baseball. Probably out of baseball for life now because that's going to probably taint him. Again, just another example of Manfred just knowing not what the heck he's doing. Lee, do you have any thoughts on this latest Astros lawsuit?
No.
Fantastic. So, that's going to do it for us this week here on Geeks Who Like Sports.
Hope you enjoyed this painfully.
Yes.
No, this is actually a really fun episode, Ray. I'll try and end it
Yes.
on a high note here. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. Obviously, we're going to release that Kevin Eastman interview as a leaderboard interview.
Yeah.
I just to add on a nice note here is I know we're getting a lot of new people in here. We really appreciate you listening, all of you, and interacting. We've had some great conversations with our friends on the Elimination Cafe. On the Geeks Who Like Sports pages on Facebook. Also, just as a reminder, if you made it to this end of the episode here, you've unlocked the secret information that we are still doing Mandalorian live streams every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on streamlounge.io on Google Chrome. You have to create yourself an account to watch, but we are having an absolute blast on there.
Yes.
And we're looking that in the future to make that some of our programming, if you will. But it's all beta testing right now. So if you made it to the end, this is the Easter egg. Join us on streamlounge.io. We're not telling everybody about this. We don't publicly do it too often. But check us out there because I love watching Star Wars with my best friend.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun every week, and yeah, also obviously if you're off from you usually do get to the end of the episode. The question of the week was in the middle of the episode this week. It was The Rock versus Austin. Let us know your comments.
Who is your wrestling
Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore, and
Yeah.
we will allow you to add a fifth head if you need.
Yeah. So let us know below, comment below as always. But yeah, this was a very good episode. We appreciate everybody listening as always, or watching on YouTube or wherever you consume this content. We appreciate it. But yeah, we'll be back as always next week with more. We hope you enjoyed the Kevin Eastman interview. We also, as always, you can email us at Ray or Lee at geekswholiksports.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure it's been scrolling the whole episode below, courtesy of our producer, Caitlin. We appreciate her, and we appreciate all you as always. And until next time, this has been episode 82 of Geeks Who Like Sports. For Lee, I'm Ray. Good night, everybody.